Greetings. I'm Ray Hilborn, a professor in the School of Aquatic and Fisheries Sciences at the University of Washington. I recently posted a short YouTube video about my skepticism regarding the potential of marine protected areas to protect the ocean. My key argument was that the only thing MPAs significantly protect from is legal and regulated fishing, and that we already have a range of tools that do that better than MPAs. In this short video, I was not able to go into much detail. So in this video, I want to describe the role I do see for MPAs. Certainly MPAs are one element in the toolkit of marine conservation and fisheries management. When conservation problems are identified, MPAs should definitely be considered as one of the tools. I see the strongest role for MPAs in places where there is little, if any, effective fisheries management, and where MPAs can be established and effectively enforced. There is certainly evidence that in those cases, the ecosystem as a whole is better off and even catches can increase. The really big benefit in such places comes when MPAs demonstrate what kind of fish populations are possible, and at the same time convince local communities to start managing their fisheries with size limits, temporal closures, and the other tools of fisheries management. The key role for MPAs is to act as a bridge to managing the fisheries, not to exist in the long-term solution. As an example, a small MPA in Chile, established by Juan Carlos Castilla on this headland, set the stage for Chile's current system of community-based management for inshore artisanal fisheries. It did this by showing how many of the key target species could be produced. Fishermen saw this and realized they need to manage their fisheries better. I've also heard stories of many cases in the Coral Triangle where the establishment of an MPA turned around community fisheries. But for that turnaround to be lasting, a wide range of fisheries management actions must follow. This is a picture of Hanauma Bay Marine Reserve on Oahu. This was the first marine reserve I ever visited. I'd lived for 2 years in New Caledonia where I'd never seen a large reef fish because everywhere I went was heavily fished by spear fishermen. At Hanauma Bay I saw lots of large reef fish, and it attracts about 1 million visitors a year. This is a picture of the Lee Marine Reserve in New Zealand, the second marine reserve I ever visited. There I was able to dive with large tame snapper in very shallow water. The Lee Reserve attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. The question is, how many tourist MPAs does a region need or can support, and how big do they need to be? Hanauma Bay is only 1 square kilometer. The Lee Reserve is about 5.5 square kilometers. Finally, tourist MPAs must necessarily be in nearshore areas, so I don't see much potential for their application in deep water. As it happens, I do love wilderness areas, and for the last 23 years spent much of my summers in the Wood-Tikchik State Park, some of the most beautiful wilderness in Alaska. There's a real value in wilderness for human societies, both to be used and for its sheer existence alone. However, wilderness does not need to be no-take. Where I work in Alaska, fishing and hunting are permitted. Over 2/3 of the salmon returning there are caught before entering the park, and I'm sure there are fewer moose and grizzlies because of hunting, but that doesn't detract from my enjoyment of its existence. The loss of wilderness is generally not due to regulated exploitation, but to landscape transformation. Regulated fishing very rarely transforms landscapes. In Alaska, regulated fishing and hunting change the relative abundance of the species that are exploited, but it doesn't significantly change the wilderness experience. Indeed, almost all the people who see this wilderness are either there to catch fish or to hunt. America's national parks are much less a wilderness because of the roads and infrastructure than Wood-Tikchik Park is less a wilderness because of fishing and hunting. What's the value of the large ocean MPAs that have recently been declared as wilderness preserves? I would personally argue that totally banning any fishing makes very little difference. These places have been very lightly exploited, and it might therefore be impossible to detect the difference in abundance with or without the fishing that goes on there. Fishing has not transformed these landscapes. Just as in Alaska, almost no one except fishermen ever goes there, and those who might be passing through on a yacht or a cruise ship could never be able to detect any difference if fishing was permitted. So in summary, I do see a role for MPAs in global conservation, with significant benefits in places that lack effective fisheries management and as coastal tourist hotspots. Such MPAs will almost always be in the near shore. Notwithstanding, I do remain a skeptic when it comes to the benefits of MPAs beyond their tourist value and in those countries and places where we are unable to regulate fishing pressure.